Look at her, barely keeping it together. My cousin Melissa's voice cut across the table, sharp and loud enough for everyone to hear. 2 jobs, no car, no apartment, sleeping wherever she can. She smirked cruelly. Maybe the library benches should charge her rent. Laughter erupted around me. My other cousins joined in, their manicured nails tapping champagne glasses like mock applause. Their words slashed deeper than any knife. Family should understand, or at least show some kindness, but they relished my shame, turning it into their entertainment. I swallowed hard, gripping the chipped mug in my hands, trying to keep my trembling under control. Hi everyone, I'm Eliza. I'm 22, and I never imagined survival would mean dawn shifts at a diner, evenings at a bookstore, and curling up on cold park benches in between. I told myself I could handle it, but I wasn't ready for the cruelty of people who shared my last name. The night air outside the restaurant felt heavy that evening, pressing against my skin like judgment itself. Melissa's laughter still rang in my ears, her perfect teeth catching the dim light. Every step I took away from that place felt like I was dragging chains behind me. I couldn't stop replaying their faces, my cousins radiant in designer clothes, mocking the frayed sleeves of my sweater. Their cruelty wasn't about poverty alone. It was about hierarchy. They treated my struggle as if it made me less. Then, across the street, under a flickering street lamp, I saw him, my uncle. He'd been there the entire time, silent, observing. His gaze wasn't pitying, it was something sharper, unreadable. He stepped forward, polished shoes crunching on gravel. A moment of silence stretched between us, broken only by traffic and the faint music spilling from the restaurant. My throat tightened, bracing for another cruel jab. But he didn't laugh. He didn't sneer. His words came low, steady, like distant thunder before a storm. Come with me, Eliza. Tonight changes everything. I froze. My pulse raced. My cousin's laughter still clung to me, but his voice carried a weight that made me shiver. I knew in that instant that something was about to shift, something none of us would forget. I followed without a word, shoes scraping the sidewalk, each step louder than my heartbeat. Uncle Charles. He was a man of sharp suits and even sharper silences. The family whispered about his wealth, his businesses, his endless connections, but no one dared pry. He held power in his stillness. We reached his sleek black car, bathed in the glow of a dim streetlight. He opened the passenger door with measured calm. I hesitated. My cousin's laughter still rang in my mind, their smug voices slicing at my pride. But his eyes told me this wasn't a request. It was an order. Inside, the leather smelled faintly of cologne and something luxurious, so far removed from the damp benches I'd called home. I sank into the seat, exhaustion pressing down. He drove in silence, city lights streaking past like molten fire. Finally, he spoke. I've known for weeks. His voice was firm. I've seen where you sleep. I've seen you drag yourself from one job to the next. And I've seen them mocking you. Shame swelled in my chest, my throat burning, words trapped inside. I wanted to defend myself, to prove I wasn't weak. But he cut through my silence. You remind me of myself at your age, he said. His hands tightened on the wheel. Hungry, fighting alone, while others laughed thinking they've already won. We pulled up to a building so tall it seemed to slice the night sky. Glass shimmered in the moonlight. I realized we weren't near his home. This was one of his properties. Everyone in the family had heard of it, but no one had been inside. He parked, stepped out, and gestured for me to follow. The marble lobby swallowed me whole, the polished floors reflecting golden lights. I had never entered a space so vast, so silent, so utterly opposite of where I had just been humiliated. When the elevator doors closed, trapping just the two of us, he turned, locking eyes with me, sharp, unyielding. Eliza, he said slowly, I'm about to show you the truth about this family. And when I do, you'll never look at them the same way again. The elevator rose, and with it, so did the weight of what I was about to learn. The doors opened to a penthouse that looked less like an apartment and more like a world carved out of dreams. Sparkles, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more gripping tales you won't want to miss. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened up to a sprawling cityscape, lights sparkling below like a blanket of stars. Inside, everything shimmered with perfection. Marble countertops, velvet chairs, glass sculptures catching the glow. I stood frozen, feeling like I'd wandered into someone else's dream. Uncle Charles entered as though this was his usual domain, loosening his tie, his presence commanding the space effortlessly. "Sit," he said simply, nodding toward a leather chair by the fireplace. My legs trembled, but I obeyed. For a long, heavy moment, silence filled the room. I could hear the faint hum of the city beyond the glass and the soft ticking of a golden clock on the wall. Finally, he spoke. "You think they mock you because you're weak," he said, pacing slowly. "But no, they laugh because they're afraid. Afraid that one day the tables could turn." His words struck me like a blade. I wanted to believe them, yet all I remembered was Melissa's smirk, the clink of champagne glasses as my cousins enjoyed my humiliation. Afraid of me? No, they feared nothing. He stopped pacing and moved to a locked cabinet built into the wall. With a key from his pocket, he opened it and pulled out a thick folder, placing it deliberately on the table. "Everything your cousins have," he said quietly. "Every car, house, allowance, it all passes through my hands." I stared at the folder, breath-catching. He opened it, revealing page after page of contracts, property deeds, financial documents, every detail of my cousins' lives laid bare in black and white. Then his gaze met mine, intense and almost dangerous. "They humiliated you tonight," he said. "But remember this, Eliza. If I decide, tomorrow they could have nothing, no roof, no money, no pride." A chill ran down my spine. Uncle Charles wasn't just wealthy. He was their foundation, and with one choice, he could dismantle it all. I leaned closer to the folder, fingertips brushing the papers. My heart raced as I read names I knew: Melissa, Jason, Claire, all tied directly to him. Their lives of luxury weren't earned, they were granted. He studied me, expression unreadable. "Do you understand now?" he asked calmly. I nodded, words failing me. The realization twisted my stomach. They had mocked me for sleeping on benches, living without comfort, while their shining world, their easy lives, all came from the man before me. Pouring himself a drink, ice clinking in the glass, he sat across from me. "They've grown entitled, spoiled. They think they're untouchable because they've never had to fight, never had to survive. But you," he paused, measuring me like a scale. "You've weathered storms they can't even imagine." The fire crackled, warming my chilled skin. For the first time in months, I felt truly seen. Not a failure, not a burden, but someone who had endured. Then his voice dropped, heavy with weight. "I want you to be the one who teaches them humility." I was stunned. My lips parted, but no words came. He slid the folder toward me, tapping it with deliberate rhythm. "Every contract here can be redirected. Leases, loans, payments. You could wield it yourself, but they'd never see the hand behind it. I want them to see you." The weight of his offer pressed down on my chest. Revenge was no longer an idea. It was tangible, written in ink. I swallowed hard, torn between fear and the irresistible pull of justice. Outside, city lights flickered like restless stars. For the first time, I imagined my cousin's laughter fading into silence. I sat frozen, staring at the folder as if it burned. Uncle Charles's words echoed louder than Melissa's cruel laugh, sharper than Jason's smug grin. Me, the one they had deemed powerless, was now the force that could overturn their world. Finally, my voice trembled. "Why me?" He leaned back, swirling amber liquid in his glass, gaze fixed unwaveringly on mine. "Because, Eliza, you've endured what they fear most. Comfort stripped away, pride shattered, a home lost, and you didn't break. That makes you dangerous. That makes you strong." The firelight danced across the polished walls, shadows stretching toward me. I remembered every cold night on a bench, every ache from double shifts, every humiliation, every tear. It all burned inside me. Suddenly, I understood. Signing these papers wouldn't be revenge alone. It would be balance, justice, a taste of helplessness they once mocked in me. He slid a sleek pen across the table. "Their comfort rests on signatures," he said quietly. And in that moment, I realized the power I held. Sign, and you become the storm they never anticipated. I hesitated, hand hovering over the pen, as 1,000 voices collided in my mind. Fear, doubt, anger. Then Melissa's voice rose above them all. Maybe the benches should charge her rent. My fingers curled around the pen. Slowly, deliberately, I signed exactly where he indicated. Each stroke felt like carving away years of silence, years spent swallowing my pride. When I finished, he collected the folder with a faint smile, not of victory, but of recognition. Tomorrow, he said, voice low, steady, undeniable. The family will learn who really holds the strings. Just like that, the balance of power shifted quietly, dangerously into my hands. The morning sun poured through the penthouse windows, bathing everything in gold. I had barely slept, mind racing over what I'd done. The folder was no longer mere paper and ink. It was a storm waiting to break. Uncle Charles moved with a calm precision that unnerved me. Over breakfast, he slid his phone across the table. Watch, he said. Messages started flooding in from my cousins. Jason's came first, frantic and sharp. Why is the dealership saying my car payments are frozen? Call me now. Then Melissa's, polished but cracking. Uncle, the landlord says the rent isn't cleared. Is this a mistake? Fix it, please. Each message struck like lightning, unraveling their certainty thread by thread. My chest tightened, not with guilt, but with a heavy, strange release. Charles glanced at me over his coffee. They're starting to feel it, the ground beneath their feet. By noon, the calls began. The penthouse phone rang endlessly. I could hear Melissa's shrill voice through the line. This isn't funny. I have a dinner party tonight. Do you know how humiliating this is? Jason's desperation followed. You can't just cut us off. We're family. Family. I chuckled bitterly under my breath. When I needed shelter, they mocked me. When I needed compassion, they offered cruelty. And now, as their walls crumbled, they remembered blood ties. I turned to the window, watching the city breathe beneath me. For the first time, I wasn't beneath it, I was above it. Untouchable. The same girl who once curled up on benches now held silent power in a penthouse. Uncle Charles laid a hand on my shoulder. Eliza, you don't have to answer them. Not yet. Let them squirm. Let them taste what you felt. I nodded slowly. My reflection in the glass revealed someone I barely recognized, stronger, colder. For the first time, their laughter didn't echo in my ears. Their fear did. By evening, chaos had spread like wildfire. My phone buzzed nonstop. Cousins, aunts, even my father's brother demanding answers. Their voices spilled into voicemails, jagged with panic. We can't pay the caterers. The bank says our cards are frozen. Do something. I sat on the velvet couch, staring at the folder. That single pen stroke had transformed me from family embarrassment to silent architect of their downfall. When Melissa finally appeared at the penthouse door, perfect hair frazzled, eyes wide with desperation, I barely recognized her. She stormed in uninvited, voice shrill. What did you do? Her gaze flicked to Uncle Charles, but he remained silent, sipping his drink like a man who'd already seen the ending of the play. She turned to me, trembling. Eliza, you can't let him do this. You know me. You owe me. The words hit like a slap. I remembered her laughter, her smirk, the way she toasted my suffering like champagne. My chest burned, but I stayed calm. I don't owe you anything, I said softly, each word sharp as glass. Her jaw dropped. Silence stretched, heavy. For the first time, she had nothing cruel to throw back. Instead, she sank into a chair, polished nails trembling on the armrest. Finally, Uncle Charles spoke, calm and final. This was never mine to decide. It was hers, and you will live with what she chose. Melissa looked at me then, not with superiority, but fear. Roles had reversed. The silence that followed carried more weight than any insult she'd ever hurled. Her pleas faded into the city's quiet hum. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, stripped of the confidence that had once dripped from every word. Uncle Charles let the silence press down on her. It was me she had to face, not him. I rose slowly from the couch, each step deliberate. Do you remember what you said that night? My voice didn't rise, but the weight behind it filled the room. You joked that maybe the benches should start charging me rent. Remember how you laughed when I walked away? Melissa parted her lips, but no sound came. Her eyes flicked to the folders on the table. I learned something on those benches, I continued, calm yet sharp. Comfort is fragile. Pride is fragile. And cruelty has a way of coming back. The firelight flickered, casting her face in trembling gold. She swallowed hard. Her silence was answer enough. I turned away, sliding the folder back into the cabinet, locking it with a click that rang louder than any scream. This wasn't about destroying them. It was about balance, reminding them their world was never theirs to control. Uncle Charles nodded quietly, approval solid. He had given me the choice. I had chosen not to destroy, but to remind, to shift the weight they carried, so they'd never forget how easily it could vanish. Melissa finally rose, shoulders hunched, voice barely a whisper. We were wrong. I said nothing. Some truths needed no confirmation. I walked to the window, watching the skyline shimmer. The city was alive and endless. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not because I'd taken revenge with fire, but because I had reclaimed my dignity in silence. Behind me, Melissa's quiet sob broke the air. And in that sound, I heard the true reversal. Not my defeat, but hers. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more gripping tales of power, revenge, and redemption.